The world watched Lionel Messi lift the World Cup in Qatar, finally completing his journey. But 6 months later, he stood on a pitch in Florida wearing pink, about to take a free kick in the 94th minute of his debut. The story of how he got there contains a childhood secret that almost ended everything, a contract that was signed on a napkin in a tennis club, and a homecoming that never happened. This is what really happened. Rosario, Argentina, 1997. An 11-year-old boy walked into a doctor's office with his parents. For over a year, something had been wrong. While his teammates at Newell's Old Boys grew taller, Leo stayed exactly the same, 4 feet, 4 inches. The same height he'd been at 10. His father Jorge worked at a steel factory. His mother Celia worked part-time making magnets. They'd noticed their son wasn't growing, but they didn't know why. The diagnosis hit hard. Growth hormone deficiency. Without treatment, Leo would reach a maximum height of 4 feet, 7 inches. Dr. Diego Schwartzstein explained what this meant. Daily injections. Expensive daily injections. Over $1,000 per month for at least 3 years. Here's what most people don't know about those injections. Leo had to do them himself. Every single night for 3 years, starting at age 11. He'd stick the needle into his own leg, night after night after night. His father's insurance covered 2 years, but after that, the money ran out. Newell's Old Boys agreed to help, but then backed out. They didn't want to invest that much money in an 11-year-old kid, even one as talented as Messi. River Plate wanted him. They watched him score 4 goals in a trial and immediately offered to pay for his treatment. Everything was arranged, but Newell's refused to release his player card. The transfer died right there. Leo's family was stuck. No money for treatment, no club willing to pay, and a kid who just wanted to play football while he still could. This is where the napkin story actually begins, and it's much darker than people realize. 2 Argentine agents heard about this talented kid who needed help. They called an agent in Barcelona named Horacio Gaggioli. He brought in Josep Maria Minguella, who had connections with Barcelona. In September 2000, they got the Messi family to Spain for a trial. First team director Carlos Rexach watched 13-year-old Leo play and immediately wanted to sign him. But Barcelona's board hesitated. They'd never signed a foreign player this young. Weeks passed, then months. The Messi family was running out of patience and money. Leo still wasn't getting his treatment. December 14th, 2000, the Messi family gave Barcelona an ultimatum. Rexach was at a tennis club in Montjuic with no contract paper. He grabbed a napkin and wrote out the terms. Barcelona would pay for Leo's treatment and relocate the family to Spain. The napkin was desperation meeting opportunity, a family running out of options, and a director who knew he was watching something special. August 2021, Messi stood at a press conference and cried. He hadn't wanted to leave. His kids had grown up in Barcelona. His wife Antonella had her whole life there. They'd built a home, made friends, became part of the city's fabric. 20 years, gone in a press conference. Barcelona president Joan Laporta said they'd done everything they could, but La Liga's financial fair play rules made it impossible. Messi left for Paris Saint-Germain as a free agent. No farewell match, no proper goodbye, just tears and empty promises. Here's what nobody talks about. Laporta was the same president who'd been in charge from 2003 to 2010. He'd been there during Messi's rise. He'd built a relationship with Jorge Messi over the years. When Messi participated in Barcelona's 2020 presidential elections, everyone assumed he'd voted for Laporta. That relationship was about to matter. December 2022, Argentina won the World Cup. Messi finally had the trophy that had haunted him his entire career. He was 35 years old, playing for PSG, but something had shifted. PSG fans were booing him at the Parc des Princes. He'd won them a World Cup with Argentina, but in Paris, they wanted more. He was miserable. January 6, 2023, Messi called Xavi Hernandez, Barcelona's manager and his former teammate. He told Xavi he wanted to come home. He couldn't see himself playing for any other European club. Barcelona was where it all began. Barcelona was where it should end. Xavi was excited. He immediately started planning how Messi would fit into the squad. He spoke to Laporta, who saw this as a chance to fix the wound from 2021. In February, Messi invited Xavi to meet with his father Jorge to speed things up. Everything was moving forward. Behind the scenes, Barcelona was working to navigate La Liga's financial fair play rules. Messi agreed to a massive wage cut, 2 years' salary spread over 5 years. He'd basically play for free compared to his market value. La Liga's officials were contacted. Laporta himself spoke to them. April 2023. Before a training session, Barcelona's director of football, Matteo Alemany, approached Xavi with news. La Liga had given the green light. The operation could proceed. A 2-year contract was drafted. Everything was ready. The homecoming was happening. Then the call came. Jorge Messi phoned Xavi with 3 devastating sentences. "They're telling me it's not going to happen. La Liga isn't giving approval." Barcelona pulled out. What actually happened in those final days remains murky. Barcelona claimed La Liga reversed their decision on financial approval. But sources close to the situation say Barcelona realized they couldn't register Messi and maintain financial compliance, even with his wage reduction. Despite an initial green light, the final approval failed due to ongoing salary cap issues. The club's finances were worse than anyone admitted. Laporta had to choose between signing Messi or destroying Barcelona's future. He chose Barcelona. Messi felt let down again by the same president. He'd trusted Laporta. He'd agreed to humiliating wage cuts. He'd planned his return for months, and then it collapsed with a phone call. No explanation, no apology that felt real. Xavi was furious. He'd been told everything was approved. He'd made promises to Messi. His relationship with Laporta fractured right there, but there was nothing he could do. Messi was tired of waiting, tired of Barcelona's financial chaos, tired of being used as a bargaining chip. Enter Jorge Mas and David Beckham. They've been chasing Messi since 2019, when they first met with him and his father in Barcelona to discuss Inter Miami. At the time, Messi wasn't ready to leave Europe, but Mas stayed in contact with Jorge Messi. In September 2022, when Argentina held a pre-World Cup training camp in Miami, the seeds were planted. After the World Cup, after Barcelona's collapse, Mas called again. This time, Messi listened. Inter Miami was the worst team in MLS. They had the worst record in the league. But they offered something Barcelona couldn't: stability, honesty, a fresh start where he could actually be happy again. Apple TV had just signed a 10-year, $2.5 billion deal to stream MLS games. Mas told Apple's senior vice president, Eddie Q, about his plan to sign Messi. Q thought it was crazy. It would be like a London basketball league signing LeBron James. But Mas was serious. He structured a deal where Messi would earn between $50 and $60 million annually, plus shares from shirt sales and Apple TV subscriptions. Adidas got involved. This wasn't just a football transfer, it was a business revolution. Think about what actually happened here. A kid from Rosario, who was told he'd never grow past 4 feet 7 inches, injected himself with needles every night for 3 years just to have a chance. His family couldn't afford treatment. His local clubs abandoned him. He moved to a foreign country at 13, lived without his mother and siblings, barely spoke the language, and still became the greatest player of his generation. Barcelona gave him the treatment that saved his career, but they also took 20 years of his life and let him go twice. The second time hurt worse than the first because he trusted them to do it right. They promised him a homecoming, and it fell apart. So he went to Miami, and on his very first game, with the entire world watching and waiting for him to fail, he scored a free kick in the 94th minute to win it. Because that's what Messi does. He takes the impossible moments and makes them look normal. The napkin that Rex signed in 2000 is now in a museum. But the real contract was written every night when an 11-year-old kid stuck a needle in his leg because he refused to give up on his dream. That's the untold story of Messi, not the trophies or the records, the fact that none of it should have been possible in the first place. Barcelona saved his career and then broke his heart, twice. But in the end, Messi got the last word. Not in Barcelona, not in the stadium where he became a legend, but in Florida, wearing pink, curling a free kick into the top corner while fireworks exploded overhead. That's how his story will be remembered, not as the player Barcelona lost, but as the one they never deserved to keep. But even after the napkin was signed, Barcelona dragged their feet on the official contract. Joan La Cueva, the club's director general, got frustrated watching the bureaucracy. He started paying for Messi's growth hormone injections out of his own pocket, 152,000 pesetas for the first round. He didn't do it out of kindness alone. He knew what he was watching. February 2001, the family finally moved to Barcelona. Leo was 13. His mother Celia, his brothers, and his sister Maria Sol stayed in Rosario at first. Leo lived in Spain with just his father. He couldn't play official matches for nearly a year because of the transfer conflict with Newell's. He was so quiet that some teammates thought he was mute. He suffered from homesickness so severe he barely spoke. Every night he still injected himself with growth hormones. People who watched him do it said they felt sick. A young teenager calmly sticking needles into his own legs while his teammates complained about ice baths. The treatment worked. By age 14, he'd grown to a normal height and the injections stopped. He'd completed 70% of the treatment in Argentina under impossible financial stress and 30% in Barcelona, where the club covered everything. The psychological impact of those years is something people rarely discuss. Imagine being 13 years old, alone in a foreign country, injecting yourself every night just to be normal, not to be special, just to grow like everyone else. While other kids worried about homework, Messi worried about whether he'd ever be tall enough to compete. The injections became a ritual, a reminder that his dream had a price. His teammates at La Masia, Barcelona's youth academy, noticed how different he was. Cesc Fabregas became one of his closest friends, but even Cesc said Messi barely spoke for the first year. He'd respond if you asked him something, but he never started conversations. He kept to himself, trained harder than anyone, then went back to his apartment and did his injections. The homesickness was brutal. His mother Celia had returned to Rosario with his siblings. She couldn't handle being away from the rest of the family, so Leo lived with just his father Jorge in a small apartment near Camp Nou. Jorge had given up everything to make this work. His job, his life in Argentina, all of it sacrificed because he believed in his son. That kind of pressure doesn't just disappear. Leo felt it every single day. That same year, 2002, he was finally registered with the Spanish Football Federation. The transfer conflict with Newell's was resolved. He could play. And when he did, everyone saw what Rexach had seen on that first trial. In his first full season, he scored 36 goals in 30 games for the youth team. They won everything: the league, the Spanish Cup, the Copa Catalunya. In the Catalunya final, he wore a plastic face mask because he'd broken his cheekbone the week before. The mask bothered him, so he ripped it off and scored 2 goals in 10 minutes. Barcelona called it the Partido de la Máscara, the final of the mask. The kid who'd been injecting himself with needles for years had just played through a broken face to win a trophy. Leo Messi had arrived. Fast forward to 2021. Messi had spent 20 years at Barcelona. He'd scored 672 goals in 778 games, won 10 La Liga titles, 4 Champions Leagues, 34 trophies total. He was Barcelona. The club's identity was built around him. Entire tactical systems designed for his left foot, marketing campaigns centered on his face. Camp Nou had become Messi's cathedral, but the club was in financial ruin. Years of mismanagement had caught up with them. They'd spent hundreds of millions on players who didn't work out. Philippe Coutinho for 160 million, Ousmane Dembele for 140 million, Antoine Griezmann for 120 million. None of them delivered. Meanwhile, they'd handed out massive contracts to aging players, bloating the wage bill to unsustainable levels. By summer 2021, Barcelona owed over $1.3 billion in debt. La Liga's financial fair play rules said they couldn't register new contracts unless they drastically reduced their salary spending. Messi's contract had expired. He'd agreed to take a 50% pay cut, literally half his wages just to stay. But even that wasn't enough. The numbers didn't work. Barcelona couldn't register him under the salary cap, even with his reduction. They couldn't register the contract of Leo Messi that was agreed because of financial fair play rules. Unfortunately, we have received an inheritance in which we have no margin with the salary current situation, Laporta explained at the press conference. But fans didn't buy it. They knew the club had options. They could have sold players, could have restructured other contracts, could have fought harder with La Liga. Instead, they let Messi walk.